Hello and welcome to It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Joining me today is Duane Bratt, who is a political science professor at the Mount Royal University. Thanks for joining us today, Duane.
Hey, Mario.
Hey, let's start with just talking about Jason Kenney and the Alberta government and its approval ratings. I saw a report just the other day where it looks like the NDP is overtaking popularity in this province. What's happening there?
Yeah, it is in the margin of error in the gap, but you have to realize that back in the 2019 election, there was almost a 20-point lead for the UCP versus the NDP. And that lead has obviously vanished. And I think it's directly as a result of COVID. We have seen repeated polls that have shown a drop in popularity for the Kenny government, especially in comparison to other provincial premiers.
So why is there the drop? Like what is he not doing right?
Well, I think there's a couple dimensions. Even back in the spring, when I think Alberta was handling COVID relatively well, he never got a COVID bump like the other premiers did. And I think that was because, well, on the one hand, he may have been handling COVID well, he was also fighting much of the medical community. Now we jump ahead to the fall and things have gotten really bad in Alberta, and the COVID numbers are the worst in the country, and the death toll, it just continues to rise over the last month. And there was a sense that there was a lot of inaction or half measures coming out of the Kenny government. So we need to separate those two time periods from the spring when things went well, but he never got a COVID bump, to where things are going quite poorly today. And that is, I think, a direct consequence of some inaction from the government.
Well, they did take action this week. What do you think that's?
Yeah, I thought much of what they announced this week was appropriate. I think they were good measures. These had been measures that public health officials and doctors had been calling for, but they were about 3 weeks too late. And what is the consequences of being late? You've got obviously the health issues of being late, but now if the whole point was to protect the economy, you're going into the busiest retail season, and now you're taking tougher measures, where if you'd taken tougher measures in November, maybe they could have been more relaxed in December.
So do you think a part of the, Kenny's rationale, I guess, is that, he's kind of juggling the public side of things, the public in general and the business community, and obviously siding with the business community up to now, right?
I think that's part of it, and I will applaud the government for some of their small business grants that they announced this week. I've always believed that Alberta's had a greater fiscal capacity than other provinces, but we've been relying on federal programs when there could have been provincial programs to do so. And so I think that is part of it, but I think it's also an appeal to the libertarian streaks of Albertans. And so there's been a lot of discussion around masks and a lot of discussion around vaccinations. That has nothing to do with the economy. It has to do with, the demonstrators and the protesters that we've seen in downtown Calgary.
Yeah. So do you think in terms of the public opinion, is this a long-lasting thing, you think, for him?
I mean, you hear that an election is, over 2 years away, and that's a long time in politics in a normal election cycle. But I think the importance of COVID is so big that people are going to remember what was done, what was not done, what has been the toll of that in 2023. I think the vaccinations are a good step. I mean, it's a glimmer of hope. We're going to start to see people getting vaccinated by the end of December. It's going to take months to finally roll all of that out. So don't expect that the numbers to completely drop. But still, I think the impact here, whether it's 650 dead or 800 dead or 1,000 dead, the economic dislocation, the social dislocation, I don't know how you're just going to forget that 2 years from now.
Okay, super then. One last question, just how do you think the city itself, Calgary, has handled this, is particularly Mayor Nenshi.
I think they have handled it quite well because for weeks there was a vacuum, a political vacuum. And therefore the mayors, not just in Calgary, but in Edmonton as well, and even in some smaller centers, were having to take the lead. And so there's been a lot more leadership at the city level than there was at the provincial level. And in fact, if Premier Kenney hadn't announced further restrictions this week, I think you would have seen that come out of the city of Calgary. They had already planned an emergency session pending on what the province had done.
Okay, super. Well, thanks for joining us today, Duane.
You're welcome, Mario.
Okay, that was Duane Bratt, who is a political science professor at the Mount Royal University. This has been It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Thanks for joining us today.